Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. The contractions had started 36 hours ago. Brock Harrington sat beside his wife's hospital bed, his large hands engulfing hers as she squeezed with bone-crushing force. Sweat plastered Sylvia's dark hair to her forehead, her normally olive complexion flushed with exertion. "You're doing amazing," Brock whispered, brushing her hair back with calloused fingers. "He's almost here." Sylvia corrected between ragged breaths. Mother's intuition. The monitors beeped steadily as Dr. Levine guided them through the final pushes. Brock's chest tightened when Sylvia's mother, Oksana Petrov, burst through the door flanked by her husband, Mikhail. "We're here now," Oksana announced, as though her presence was the missing ingredient for a successful birth. She moved towards Sylvia's side, practically shoving Brock aside. Brock stood his ground. "Family only during delivery." "We are family," Mikhail replied coldly. "More than you." Before Brock could respond, Sylvia's scream split the air. The doctor called for one final push, and suddenly there was a different cry. Their daughter. "It's a girl," Dr. Levine confirmed, placing the squalling infant on Sylvia's chest. Brock's vision blurred with tears as he gazed at his daughter. "Sophia," he whispered, the name they'd chosen if Sylvia's intuition proved correct. He didn't notice Oksana and Mikhail exchanging meaningful glances over Sylvia's bed, nor the subtle nod Sylvia gave them before turning her attention back to the baby. 2 years ago, Brock had quite literally bumped into Sylvia at the Westridge Gallery opening. He'd attended only because his construction company had renovated the space, transforming the abandoned warehouse into the city's premier modern art showcase. Sylvia, the gallery's curator, had been rushing to replace a fallen placard when Brock rounded the corner. "I'm so sorry," he'd said, steadying her with hands that dwarfed her slender shoulders. "It's fine," she'd replied, looking up at him with eyes like amber caught in sunlight. Their courtship had been swift. Brock taken by her sophistication, Sylvia apparently charmed by his straightforward nature. Her parents had been less enthusiastic. The Petrovs, Russian immigrants who'd built a successful import business, made no effort to hide their disdain for Brock's blue-collar origins, despite his success. "Your family has no legacy," Mikhail had pronounced at their first meeting. "No traditions." Brock remembered how Sylvia had squeezed his thigh under the table, silently urging him to let the insult pass. Now, watching his wife cradle their newborn daughter as her parents hovered nearby, Brock felt that same pressure, the expectation to acquiesce to the Petrov way. He'd done it for Sylvia's sake, but looking at Sophia's tiny face, he knew some things weren't negotiable. His phone buzzed with a congratulatory text from his friend Wade Thornton. "Congrats, man. Ready for sleepless nights." Brock smiled. Wade had been his only friend to warn him about rushing into marriage with Sylvia. "Something's off there," he'd said. Brock had dismissed it as unfounded concern. As he texted back a photo of Sophia, Brock noticed Sylvia's phone light up on the side table. The notification preview caught his eye. Everything going according to plan? Or, when he glanced up, Oksana was watching him with calculating eyes. "Who's our?" Brock asked casually. "My assistant, Renata," Sylvia answered too quickly. "She's checking on gallery business." Something in her tone made the hair on Brock's neck stand up. Later that night, after the Petrovs finally left and Sophia was sleeping in the hospital bassinet, Brock stepped out to grab coffee from the vending machine. When he returned, Sylvia was on her phone, speaking in rapid Russian. She ended the call abruptly when she noticed him. "Just updating mother on Sophia," she explained. But Brock had picked up enough Russian during their marriage to recognize that the words agreement and soon hadn't been about baby updates. 3 days after bringing Sophia home, the doorbell rang. Brock opened the door to find Oksana and Mikhail standing on the porch with luggage. "We're moving in," Oksana announced, brushing past him. Brock blocked Mikhail. "We didn't discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss," Mikhail replied. "In our culture, the mother needs freedom while the grandparents raise the child." The words hit Brock like a physical blow. "That's not happening," he said flatly. It's tradition, Oksana called from inside, already making herself at home. The mother recovers fully, returns to work, while we give the child proper cultural upbringing. Brock looked to Sylvia, who stood in the living room doorway, Sophia in her arms. You knew about this? It's how I was raised, she said, not meeting his eyes. My grandparents cared for me while mother worked. That's a child care arrangement, not a tradition that displaces parents, Brock argued. Sophia stays with us, her parents. Oksana's face hardened. Then you're disrespecting our traditions. Sylvia looked torn, glancing between her mother and husband. Brock, please. It's important to my family. We are your family now, Brock responded, pointing to Sophia. Her and me. That night, after an uncomfortable dinner where the Petrovs stayed despite his objections, Brock found Sylvia texting in the bathroom, the door barely ajar. Everything ready? Tomorrow at 10, she typed. The recipient's name was listed as writer work. Who's writer? Brock asked, pushing the door open. Sylvia startled, nearly dropping her phone. A gallery client. We have a pickup scheduled. You're going to work tomorrow? You just gave birth. Mother will watch Sophia, she said dismissively. I told you this is how we do things. No, Brock said firmly. We're Sophia's parents. Not your mother. Not your father. Us. Don't be so American about this, Sylvia snapped, a phrase she used whenever he didn't bend to her family's ways. After Sylvia fell asleep, Brock checked their security system footage. The camera facing the street showed a black Range Rover driving past their house 3 times that day. The last time, it slowed in front of their driveway, and Brock could make out the driver, a man with sharp features and dark hair watching their home with unsettling intensity. The next morning, Brock took Sophia to the nursery while Sylvia showered. He was changing her diaper when he heard Sylvia's phone chime on the dresser. The preview showed another message from writer work. Cars waiting 2 blocks east. Get the baby. Brock's company, Harrington Construction, had grown from a one-man operation to one of the city's most respected builders. He'd started with a used truck and second-hand tools, building decks and renovating bathrooms before landing his first commercial contract. Now he employed 20 people and specialized in historical renovations. That morning, instead of going to check on the Roosevelt Hotel restoration, Brock called his foreman. Family emergency, he explained. You're in charge today. After Sylvia left, without Sophia, thanks to Brock's insistence that he needed bonding time with his daughter, he strapped the baby in her car seat and drove to his friend Wade's security firm. This is a surprise, Wade said, looking at Sophia with a raised eyebrow. Cute kid. I need your help, Brock explained. Something's not right. Wade, a former military intelligence officer who'd started his own security consulting business, listened intently as Brock described the strange behavior, the mysterious texts, and the car circling their house. Let me run this plate, Wade offered, taking the security footage. 10 minutes later, he had an answer. Vehicle registered to Ryder Volkov, age 34, works for Petrov Imports. Brock's stomach clenched. Volkov? Any relation to the Petrovs? Wade tapped a few more keys. Oksana Petrov's maiden name is Volkova. Could be family. I need to know what's going on, Brock said, looking down at Sophia, sleeping peacefully in her carrier. I can put surveillance on them, Wade offered, but it'll take time. I don't have time. I need to see for myself. That afternoon, with Sophia safely in the care of his assistant Mariana, a grandmother herself who'd been delighted to help, Brock followed Sylvia from the gallery. She drove not toward home or her parents' house, but to an upscale apartment building downtown. Brock watched from his truck as Sylvia entered the building, using a key card like she'd been there many times before. He waited 30 minutes, then approached the doorman, flashing a business card. Harrington Construction. We've been called about a leak affecting Unit 1403. The doorman frowned. Mr. Volkov didn't mention any leak. It was called in by the unit below. Water damage coming through their ceiling. After a moment's hesitation, the doorman let him up. Outside Unit 1403, Brock heard voices, Sylvia's and a man's. He didn't knock. Instead, he pressed his ear to the door. Custody shouldn't be difficult, the male voice was saying. His background works against him. No family, no support system. A workaholic with anger issues. I don't know, Sylvia replied, sounding uncertain. Brock loves Sophia. That's irrelevant. Once your parents establish the cultural precedent, we'll have grounds for full custody transfer. Then we move forward as planned. And if he fights it, a laugh. Men like that break easily. He'll give up when he sees it's hopeless. Brock had heard enough. He pounded on the door. When it opened, he found himself face to face with the man from the Range Rover. Behind him, Sylvia stood frozen, eyes wide with shock. Brock, she gasped. I can explain. Please do, Brock said, his voice deadly calm despite the rage coursing through him. Explain why you're planning to take my daughter. Ryder Volkov stepped forward, his posture confident despite being several inches shorter than Brock. This is a private conversation. Between my wife and her. What exactly are you? Cousin, Ryder said smoothly. We're discussing family matters. Like how to take my child using fake traditions as an excuse. Sylvia moved forward. They're not fake. And this isn't what it sounds like. Really? Because it sounds like conspiracy to commit parental kidnapping. Ryder smiled coldly. I think you should leave. Brock looked at Sylvia. I'll be home tonight. You can either tell me the truth then, or I'll get it my own way. As he turned to leave, Ryder called after him. Be careful, Harrington. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Outside, breathing heavily, Brock made 2 calls. First to Mariana, checking on Sophia, then to Wade. I need everything you can find on the Petrovs and Volkovs, he said, and I need a good family lawyer. The Petrov family history, as Wade uncovered it, was a carefully constructed mythology. Mikhail and Oksana had immigrated 27 years ago, not as political refugees as they claimed, but as part of a calculated business expansion. The family hadn't been persecuted. They'd been connected to old money and older power structures. Petrov Imports isn't just art and antiques, Wade explained, spreading documents across Brock's office desk 2 days later. They specialize in moving assets for wealthy Eastern European families. Some legitimate, some less so. The office had become Brock's temporary home. After confronting Sylvia the night of his discovery, he'd found her and her parents gone, along with most of Sophia's things. Only Wade's quick legal maneuvering had secured an emergency temporary custody order, forcing Sylvia to return Sophia within hours. The tradition they mentioned? Wade continued. It's not cultural, it's operational. The Petrovs have married into 3 American families in the last decade. In each case, they've used family court to secure custody of grandchildren, then used those family connections to expand their business operations. Brock stared at the photographs. 3 men who looked beaten down, hollow. What happens to the fathers? They're systematically destroyed. Financial ruin, reputation damage, even criminal charges based on planted evidence. The Petrovs leave nothing to chance. A sharp knock interrupted them. Brock's new lawyer, Vanessa Cooper, entered with a grim expression. They've filed for emergency custody, she announced without preamble, claiming you're violent and unstable. They have 3 affidavits supporting the claim. That's impossible, Brock protested. Not for them, Wade interjected. The Petrovs have judges in their pocket. Vanessa nodded. The hearing is tomorrow. Judge Leopold Weiss. Weiss, Wade muttered, typing on his laptop. Son-in-law of a prominent Russian art dealer who works exclusively with Petrov Imports. Brock rubbed his face, exhaustion settling deep in his bones. So we've already lost. Not necessarily, Vanessa said, but we need to fight fire with fire. That night, alone in his office with Sophia, sleeping in a portable crib beside him, Brock scrolled through old photos on his phone. Sylvia on their wedding day, looking radiant. Had it all been a lie? Had she married him knowing this would happen? His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Losing your daughter would be unfortunate. Consider settlement. Rage surged through him. He wanted to drive to Volkov's apartment and show him exactly what kind of man he was dealing with. Instead, he called Wade. I need options. Real ones. Wade's voice was serious. There's someone I know, former Fed, who specializes in these situations. He's not cheap, and his methods aren't always by the book. Call him. An hour later, Brock's phone rang. Mr. Harrington, a voice said without introduction. I understand you have a problem that requires creative resolution. Who is this? Call me Maxwell. Wade explained your situation. I can help, but you need to understand something. Once we start, there's no going back. Brock looked at his sleeping daughter. I'm not going back anyway. Good. Here's what we'll do. Judge Leopold Weiss was a corpulent man with small, shrewd eyes that never seemed to blink. He regarded Brock with obvious disdain as the emergency custody hearing began. Mr. Harrington, Weiss drawled, these are serious allegations. Beside his lawyer, Brock maintained a stoic expression, even as Sylvia sobbed theatrically on the stand, describing fabricated incidents of rage and instability. The Petrovs sat behind her, Oksana dabbing at non-existent tears, Mikhail's hand possessively on Sylvia's shoulder. Ryder Volkov sat directly behind them, watching Brock with smug satisfaction. When Sylvia finished her performance, her attorney, a sharp-featured woman named Diana Barlow, called her next witness. Dr. Philip Rosenthal, a child psychologist who had allegedly evaluated Sophia and found concerning patterns consistent with paternal mistreatment. Objection, Vanessa called. Dr. Rosenthal never examined the child. I have signed documentation of my assessment. Rosenthal countered smoothly. Your Honor, Vanessa persisted, we request validation of these documents, as my client was never informed of any such examination. Judge Weiss waved dismissively. The court accepts the doctor's credentials. Objection overruled. As the testimony continued, Brock felt the case slipping away. Everything had been orchestrated perfectly. False witnesses, manufactured evidence, and a judge firmly in the Petrovs' pocket. During a brief recess, Vanessa pulled Brock aside. This is even worse than I anticipated. They've created an alternate reality, and the court is buying it. Let them have their show, Brock replied calmly. You don't seem concerned. I made a call, remember? When the hearing resumed, Diana Barlow announced, the Petrovs request immediate temporary custody of Sophia Harrington, with supervised visitation for the father pending full psychological evaluation. Judge Weiss nodded. Given the evidence presented, the courtroom doors burst open. A tall, silver-haired man in an immaculate suit entered, flanked by 2 federal agents. Your Honor, the man announced, I'm Special Director Thaddeus Hammond with the Financial Intelligence Unit. These proceedings will need to be postponed. Weiss's face flushed. This is an outrage. You have no jurisdiction. On the contrary, Hammond replied, approaching the bench and handing over a document. Federal investigation takes precedence. The Petrov family is under investigation for multiple violations of international banking laws, customs fraud, and conspiracy. The courtroom erupted. Mikhail Petrov shot to his feet, face contorted with rage. Ryder Volkov was already edging toward the door when one of the agents blocked his path. Mr. Volkov, the agent said, we have some questions about certain financial transfers to Judge Weiss's offshore accounts. Weiss blanched, his hands trembling as he read the document Hammond had provided. This hearing is adjourned indefinitely, he stammered, gathering his robes and almost running for his chambers. Outside the courthouse, Brock watched as federal agents escorted the Petrovs and Volkov to waiting vehicles. Sylvia stood alone on the steps, looking lost. What did you do? She demanded when she spotted Brock. I made a call, he replied simply. That evening, Brock met Maxwell in a nondescript diner. The man who had introduced himself as Thaddeus Hammond in court now wore casual clothes and looked utterly unremarkable. Phase 1 is complete, Maxwell said. The investigation is legitimate. Your in-laws have been on a watch list for years, but no one had enough to move on them until now. What about Sylvia? Not directly implicated yet, but it's only a matter of time. Brock nodded. In Phase 2, Maxwell slid an envelope across the table. Everything's prepared. The timing is up to you. Tomorrow, Brock decided. They think they've lost the battle, but not the war. Let's end it completely. Brock sat in his home office, staring at the envelope Maxwell had given him. Inside were documents that would dismantle the Petrov organization piece by piece. Financial records, witness statements, and evidence of their systematic targeting of American spouses. Sophia slept in her nursery down the hall, blissfully unaware of the war being waged over her future. Mariana had agreed to stay on as her nanny, providing stability amid the chaos. The doorbell rang. Brock checked the security camera to find Sylvia standing on the porch, looking fragile and uncertain. He hesitated before letting her in. "You've destroyed my family," she said without preamble. "Your family tried to steal my daughter." Sylvia sank onto the couch. "It wasn't like that. The tradition is real. It's how we maintain family cohesion. By destroying the fathers? That only happens when they resist," she said, then seemed to realize how damning that sounded. "I never wanted to hurt you, Brock. I respected your drive, your principles. Just not enough to be honest." She reached for his hand. He pulled away. "We can fix this," she pleaded. "The investigation will fade if we cooperate. We can raise Sophia together the right way." "Your way. Our way," she insisted. "I've realized I don't want to lose you or what we built." For a moment, Brock almost believed her. Then he remembered the conversations he'd overheard, the calculated deception. "Did you ever love me, or was I just a target?" Something flickered in her eyes, perhaps genuine regret. "It wasn't supposed to be you. Any suitable American would have worked. But then, I did fall for you. That wasn't part of the plan. And now I want my husband and daughter back." She moved closer. "Call off your attack dogs. We'll make a fresh start, away from my parents' influence." Brock stood, putting distance between them. "I need time to think." After showing Sylvia out, he picked up his phone. The call he was about to make would change everything. No turning back, as Maxwell had warned. He dialed the number stored under insurance. "It's time," he said when Maxwell answered. "Execute everything. There's no coming back from this," Maxwell warned. "They'll lose everything. So did I, the moment they targeted my child." That night, alone in his bedroom, Brock opened his laptop and reviewed the final piece of his counterattack. Emails and text messages recovered from Sylvia's devices, revealing the true nature of her relationship with Ryder. Not cousins, but lovers who had been planning this operation for years. The last email, dated 3 months before Sophia's birth, was explicit. "Once custody transfers to my parents, we eliminate Harrington's parental rights entirely. The business merger proceeds with Hartford Holdings using his property as collateral. Harrington Construction becomes just another Petrov asset." Brock closed the laptop. Tomorrow, the Petrovs would understand exactly who they had underestimated. The Petrovs' lavish home sat on 3 acres in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. At precisely 9 a.m., a courier arrived with special delivery envelopes for Mikhail, Oksana, Sylvia, and Ryder, who had gathered to strategize their counteroffensive. Mikhail signed for the packages, dismissing the courier with his usual imperious wave. "More legal nonsense from Harrington," he muttered, tossing the envelopes onto the marble table. Ryder grabbed his, tearing it open impatiently. His face drained of color as he scanned the contents. "What is it?" Sylvia asked, reaching for her own envelope. "Don't open it," Ryder snapped too late. Inside Sylvia's envelope was a USB drive and a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. "The truth has always been there. Now everyone will see it." Mikhail was already at his computer, inserting his USB drive. His screen filled with financial statements, offshore account numbers, client lists, the entire infrastructure of Petrov import shadow operations. "Impossible," he whispered, scrolling frantically. "These are encrypted on secure servers." Oksana's envelope contained photographs, Mikhail with known criminals, herself accepting packages from diplomatic couriers, Ryder entering Judge Weiss's private residence with an envelope. "He can't prove any of this," she insisted, voice shaking. Ryder's package was more personal. Every text, email, and photograph documenting his relationship with Sylvia dating back to before her marriage to Brock. Their intimate messages discussing the American mark and how easily he would be manipulated once a child was involved. But it was Sylvia's USB that proved most devastating. It contained a video compilation, every conversation she'd had with her parents and Ryder about taking Sophia, destroying Brock, and absorbing his assets into the family business. Conversations in their home, in restaurants, in Ryder's apartment, all captured with crystal clarity. He bugged us, Ryder realized. Everywhere. The final clip showed Brock himself, looking directly at the camera. By now you've seen what I know, he said calmly. These materials have been delivered to the FBI, IRS, Department of Homeland Security, and State Department. Copies are with every major news outlet and will be released in 24 hours unless you comply with the following terms. The doorbell rang, startling them all. Mikhail checked the security camera to find federal agents, local police, and several official-looking vehicles parked in their circular driveway. "This is Director Farrell with the FBI," announced a voice through the intercom. "We have a warrant for the arrest of Mikhail and Oksana Petrov on multiple federal charges. Please open the door." Sylvia turned to her father in panic. "What do we do?" For the first time in his life, Mikhail Petrov had no answer. 3 days after the Petrovs' arrest, Brock sat across from Vanessa Cooper in her office, reviewing the aftermath. "The federal charges are just the beginning," Vanessa explained. "Every business associated with Petrov imports is under scrutiny. Their assets are frozen. Even the gallery is being investigated for art smuggling. And Sylvia? Cooperating with authorities to save herself. She's claiming she was coerced by her parents and Ryder." Brock laughed bitterly. "Of course she is. She's also withdrawn her custody petition and is offering full parental rights to you." That caught him by surprise. "Why?" "Strategy. She's painting herself as a victim to avoid charges. Surrendering custody supports that narrative." Brock considered this. "And if I refuse? You'd have to prove she's an unfit mother. Despite everything, that's legally challenging. I have recordings of her plotting to take my child, which were obtained questionably," Vanessa reminded him. "Maxwell's methods exist in a legal gray area. They're excellent leverage, but problematic in family court." Brock stared out the window. The custody victory fell hollow. He'd protected Sophia, destroyed his enemies, but at what cost? His marriage was a fraud. His daughter would grow up without her mother. "Accept her offer," he decided finally. "Full custody to me, supervised visitation for her, if she stays in the country." Later that day, as Brock left Vanessa's office, he found Ryder Volkov waiting by his truck. "You think you've won," Ryder sneered, desperation evident in his disheveled appearance and bloodshot eyes. "It's over, Volkov. Go crawl back to whatever hole you came from. Nothing's over. You have no idea what you've started. The Petrovs have connections you can't imagine." Brock stepped closer, towering over the smaller man. "Threaten me or my daughter again, and there won't be enough connections in the world to protect you." Big talk from a glorified construction worker, Ryder spat. "You think you're so clever with your recordings and federal friends. But accidents happen, Harrington. Terrible, unexpected accidents." Something in Brock snapped. He grabbed Ryder by the collar, slamming him against the truck. "Listen carefully," he growled, voice low and dangerous. "The only reason you're still walking free is because I allow it. The evidence I've released is a fraction of what I have. One word from me, and everything else goes public, including your activities in Belarus that even the Petrovs don't know about." Ryder's face went slack with shock. "How did you?" "I made it my business to know everything about the people threatening my family. Everything. Now disappear, or the next envelope will have your name on alone." As Ryder slunk away, Brock's phone rang. It was Maxwell. "We have a problem," Maxwell said without preamble. "Someone's trying to access Sophia's trust fund, the one we established as part of the protective measures." "Sylvia?" "No. Someone higher up the Petrov food chain. Someone we didn't know about." Brock felt a chill. "What does that mean?" "It means the Petrovs were middle management, not the bosses. And now the real power players are getting involved." The warehouse on the outskirts of the city had once been a Petrov import storage facility before the federal seizures. Now it stood empty and dark, except for a single office where light spilled from beneath the door. Inside, Brock waited patiently, Sophia safely with Mariana and under Wade's security team's protection across town. On the desk sat a single envelope, his final move in a game that had grown far larger than a custody battle. The door opened, admitting a tall, elegant woman with silver-streaked dark hair. She moved with the confidence of absolute power, her eyes assessing Brock with clinical detachment. "Mr. Harrington," she said, her accent subtle but distinct. "I am Irina Volkova. I believe you have something that belongs to my family. Your niece and her husband tried to steal my daughter." Irina waved dismissively. "Oksana was always too ambitious, too careless. The American expansion was premature." "Expansion of what? Exactly. You know exactly what Petrov imports truly imports. Influence, control, power." She settled into the chair across from him. "The children were merely anchors, ensuring our interests remain protected across generations. Sophia is my daughter, not your anchor. Every child serves a purpose in the greater design." Irina's smile was cold. "The Volkov family has survived revolutions, wars, and the collapse of empires. We will survive you." Brock pushed the envelope toward her. "Perhaps, but not intact." Irina opened it, her expression unchanging as she reviewed the contents. Inside was evidence that even Maxwell had been reluctant to use. The true ownership structure of the Volkov Empire, its connections to government officials across 3 continents, and the names of their silent partners in banking, technology, and defense. "Impressive," she acknowledged, "but meaningless. Release this, and you sign your death warrant." "It's already released," Brock countered, "to a global network of journalists and law enforcement agencies. Time-locked and encrypted. If anything happens to me or Sophia, it all goes public instantly." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Irina's face. "What do you want?" "Simple. The Volkovs, Petrovs, and all their associates disappear from our lives permanently. My daughter grows up never knowing your family existed. In return, your evidence stays buried. You expect me to abandon family members? I expect you to cut losses." Mikhail and Oksana were sloppy. Ryder was worse. Consider this a corporate restructuring. Irina studied him with newfound respect. "You would have made an excellent addition to our organization, Mr. Harrington. I already have a business and a daughter to raise." After a long moment, Irina nodded. "Very well. The Petrovs are disowned. Ryder will be reassigned overseas. Sylvia receives nothing from the family. And Sophia is never contacted by any of you." "Agreed." Irina stood. "You've won this round, Mr. Harrington. Few can claim as much." As she reached the door, Brock called after her. "One more thing. If any accidents happen, to me, my daughter, or anyone I care about, everything goes public." "Immediately. We honor our agreements," Irina replied coldly. "Unlike some, we respect tradition." 6 months later, Brock stood in Sophia's nursery, watching his daughter sleep peacefully. The Petrovs had been convicted on multiple federal charges. Ryder had indeed disappeared overseas. Sylvia had accepted the divorce terms without protest, relinquishing all claims to Sophia in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Wade entered quietly, careful not to wake the baby. "Final sweeps are clean," he reported. "No surveillance, no threats. Looks like they're honoring the agreement." "For now," Brock replied. "We keep the security in place anyway." "Always." Wade hesitated. Sylvia called the office again. "Wants to see Sophia before she leaves the country." Brock looked down at his daughter's peaceful face. "No, she made her choice. She is still Sophia's mother." "Biology doesn't make a parent," Brock said firmly. "Love, sacrifice, protection. That's what makes a parent. Sylvia chose her family's tradition over her daughter. She doesn't get to change her mind now." Later that night, after Wade left, Brock received one final text from Maxwell. "Package delivered to Ms. Volkova. Message received. You're clear." The package contained proof that Brock's deadman switch was real and operational, insurance against any future Volkov retaliation. The war was over. His enemies vanquished. His daughter safe. Brock deleted the message and blocked the number. Some traditions weren't worth preserving. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. And some victories demanded absolute commitment. In Sophia's nursery, he made a silent promise to his daughter as she slept. The Volkovs had their traditions of control and manipulation. He would give Sophia different traditions, of strength, integrity, and unwavering love. Let the world call him ruthless. For his daughter, he would be that and more. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.